Okay, so here we go, vlog number 11. At least for a while, this may put a cap on the current project, but let's take a look at just a couple more components. Now, one thing that I intended to include last time that I didn't get to include is the fact that with all of the various ways you can do this, something as simple as a Chromebook or a laptop that has a webcam in it, any of these things, or even a desktop without a webcam, as long as you have a microphone, and those are about $12 on Amazon. You could get started with screencasting, whether you use Screencast-O-Matic, Screencastify, or any other number of screencasting applications. You can record what's on your screen, put it into a format and into a framework that is accessible to students 24/7. Now, one other thing that I really wanted to talk about that I really love as a way to organize, and this is particularly true for all ages. Now, if you look over here, you will find that our map here looks a lot like a Candyland board. And this Candyland board is actually an active board. Any of these graphics that I click on will take me to a particular step in the process. This is actually a training set that we actually used when we got Chromebooks to train all staff and students on how to use Chromebooks. And when I put this together, I limited myself to only what was available on my Chromebook. So there is nothing besides a screencasting app and the Chromebook that was used to create any of these materials. And these materials follow the basic flip format. There's some sort of introductory information. There's some sort of summative assessment on that information. Ideally, I could have used some sort of interactive tool, but I didn't have that at the time, and I was limiting myself. And then there's some sort of larger proof of understanding, and with a submission link. And so students and teachers were both to go through this, and they did very nicely. In a matter of 3 weeks, at 15 minutes at the end of the day, we had all of the Google gone through, so much so that we made a map for the second year on the components that teachers felt students needed to either brush up on or know more about. But if you'll notice, this is a great organizational pattern that isn't page after page after page. It's simply one icon per page, and that page contains all the information for that area or component of the lesson. This is a great idea for organizing a chapter. I had classes that I've run for a couple years that run on nothing more than these mind maps. Now, this one's a very simple one, in fact, that it's linear, but there's also the opportunity, as Dave Walsh out of New Jersey has mentioned, that you can create these maps that are not linear, and the students get to choose, and it's in essence a choose your own adventure, and you still get to the goal at the end. So there's lots of ways that you can organize information. But if we go back to all the way to the beginning of our project was, first of all, you need to define what kind of content you want to talk about. Number 2, you had to create some sort of content. That could be digital or non-digital. Then you had to organize that content in some form or fashion. Then you had to provide interaction. Now, we initially provided interaction digitally, either through the Delta Math or the Edpuzzle. But the real key to interaction is the in-class interaction, planning those in-class components. Because what you'll find is once all this digital is done, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can always come back and update it. You can always adjust it. You can always change it. You can always add to it. But it's the in-class that you're now allowed to focus on, because that class time you would have spent standing at the front talking to the students now becomes 45 minutes where they're accessing resources you've provided for them, interacting with each other, and interacting with you. And all of that is really the heart of flipped learning. If you'd like to know a little bit more about some of the definitions for flipped learning, I'm going to put some links down in the bottom of the video and or in the vlog and in the write-up on flipped learning when we post this. We have an entire map that is just flip learning and training you how to flip learn, and it's done in this same map fashion. It's just a little bit more formal, and it has a lot more detail of some of the theory and some of the behind the scenes, in particular the definition of flip learning, how to create a framework, and how to get started. So we'll put that link down in the description. Also, the other concept that we have been using the entire time is this concept of DIBs, or digital instruction blocks. What we're doing is we're taking components of instruction, and I prefer to digitally put them together, and that's what you've been seeing. Each one of those little components is a digital instruction block, and those components can be put together like Legos. And so if you want to learn more about the theory and the practice behind digital instruction blocks, we have a map for that. Because, again, if we're doing it for our students, it's just as good for adults. Remember that Google training? That was just as much for the adults as it was for the students. And when the school had finished training on it, we sent it to all parents in the district. In the same way, this digital instruction block map and the flip learning map is actually part of the professional development training components that are available at my school. So, in fact, at my school, we do training for all of the staff, those mandated components, and here it's not a map situation. We did it as a badge situation. Again, it's the same process. You take each of those digital instruction blocks, and those digital instruction blocks become one component for the larger training sequence. So all you have to do is click the component. It takes you to the instruction that may include an interactive component like we've seen before. And when they're done with that interactive component, they simply drag it over into the completed section. And they grab their badges, whether they're mandated or optional. This allows the administration to collect the information of when did the staff member do it, how long did it take them, what did they do, etc., etc., etc. But it also means we're not spending 30-minute faculty meetings either before school or after school staring at some YouTube video with no interaction. And so this allows faculty to take control of their own personalized professional development, both the mandated component but also getting that extra training component that is optional. And so whether you put things together in one Google slideshow, whether you put it together in a map like a Candyland board game, which works just as well for third graders as it does for 30-year-olds or older, whether you take it and you put it in terms of a mind map, learning map, or whether you put it in terms of badges, or just put it on Google Classroom, or whether you put it on Edmodo, or whether you do it in some other way, the key is find a way to organize your information, create the content so that it never has to be done again or can be done when you want it to be done. And you can accommodate any sort of content regardless of what style content it is. So hopefully this has been a good training to take you from zero to flip, and I think we're on 11 episodes thus far, and we'll see if what else comes to mind, and we may add a couple more. So in the meantime, thank you for joining me. Hopefully this has been a helpful time. If nothing else, I have a couple things ready to go for my class for tomorrow. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate your time.